The Art of Framing, a powerful tool for influence by Ethan Black, published by Audiobooks Hub. Introduction: the power of listening and being heard. Framing is an art. It is a subtle science of presenting information in a way that shapes how others perceive it and, in turn, influences their decisions, emotions, and actions. Whether it's a political speech, a marketing campaign, a classroom lesson, or a personal conversation, framing has the power to guide thought, build understanding, and persuade. It's the lens through which we view the world, and how that lens is adjusted can dramatically alter the picture. At its core, framing is about context. It's not just what is said, but how it's said and presented. When framed correctly, information can resonate more deeply, inspire action, or even change minds. When framed poorly, it can confuse, mislead, or alienate. Every aspect of life, whether professional or personal, is influenced by the frames we use, often without us even realizing it. In this book, we will explore the concept of framing across various domains, from leadership and education to business and personal relationships. We will examine how framing works, how it can be used to build trust and understanding, and how it can be misused to manipulate and deceive. We will also discuss the ethical implications of framing, offering guidance on how to use it responsibly and effectively. Framing is more than just a technique. It's a lens through which we perceive and navigate the world. By mastering the art of framing, we can enhance our communication, influence others positively, and achieve our goals with integrity. This book is a guide to understanding how framing works and how we can use it to shape better outcomes in all areas of life. Chapter 1: Understanding the Power of Framing. We all frame the world differently. Our perceptions, beliefs, and reactions to situations are influenced by how information is presented to us. The art of framing is, in essence, the ability to present information in such a way that it shapes the way people think and respond, often without them even realizing it. This powerful tool is used in marketing, politics, media, and personal interactions, and it plays a pivotal role in guiding people's thoughts. The concept of framing is simple. It's not just the information that matters, but how it's presented. Imagine you're offered a chocolate bar that is labeled 75% less fat. The framing here focuses on a positive outcome, less fat, and is likely to make you feel better about eating the chocolate. Now, if that same chocolate bar were labeled as 25% fat, the framing changes. While the actual content remains the same, the perception of the product changes dramatically based on how it's framed. Framing works because our brains are wired to respond to specific cues. These cues influence our emotional and cognitive responses. When we are presented with information, we do not process in a vacuum. Instead, we interpret it through the lens of previous experiences, emotions, and importantly, the frame through which it is presented. This chapter will explore the fundamental principles of framing. Understanding the basics is essential before applying the technique in various situations. To frame effectively, one must first recognize how different frames impact people's perceptions. Framing doesn't just happen by chance. It is a deliberate process used by advertisers, politicians, leaders, and even in day-to-day conversations. The key to using framing to your advantage is understanding its underlying mechanisms. By grasping these principles, you can learn how to guide people's thoughts without them feeling manipulated. The role of context. Framing works best when it's aligned with the context. If you're framing a proposal, the context of the conversation or situation will greatly influence the effectiveness of the frame. A proposal made to a team in a high-stress situation may need a different frame compared to one made in a relaxed meeting. In fact, the same information presented in different contexts can lead to vastly different interpretations. Understanding the context ensures that the frame you choose resonates with the audience's current mindset. Cognitive biases are inherent in the way we process information. These biases can be leveraged in framing to guide people's thinking. For example, the anchoring bias is a tendency to rely heavily on the first piece of information we receive, even when it is not relevant. If the first thing we hear is a high price, subsequent prices may seem more reasonable in comparison, even if they are still high. Similarly, the framing effect itself is a bias where people respond to information differently based on how it is framed. A person may be more likely to accept a proposal if it is framed in terms of potential gains rather than losses, even if the actual details are identical. One of the most potent tools in framing is the ability to tap into emotions. Emotional responses often override logical analysis, which is why framing emotional appeals can be so effective. Whether you're persuading someone to take action, make a decision, or simply view a situation in a particular light, emotional framing can significantly impact how the message is received. Take, for example, political campaigns. Politicians often frame issues in ways that evoke strong emotions, fear, hope, anger, or excitement, because these emotions drive action. When people feel strongly about an issue, they are more likely to act on it. In much the same way, if you're trying to motivate someone in a business context, framing your request in a way that evokes positive emotions like pride, excitement, or belonging can result in better outcomes than simply presenting the facts. In personal relationships and professional environments, framing can be used to guide conversations and influence decisions. When you frame an argument or request in a way that highlights benefits, reduces perceived risks, or connects with the listener's values, you increase the likelihood of a positive response. For example, if you want someone to try a new project, framing it as an opportunity for growth, learning, and recognition can make them more inclined to say yes, compared to framing it as additional work or extra responsibility. In conclusion, framing is an essential tool in shaping people's thoughts and responses. It's not about deceiving others or manipulating them into doing something against their will. It's about presenting information in a way that resonates with their values, emotions, and cognitive biases. Understanding the fundamentals of framing gives you the ability to guide thoughts, influence decisions, and navigate interactions with greater skill and effectiveness. Chapter 2: The Mechanics of Framing. How it works. Framing is not just about how you present information. It's about the underlying psychological mechanics that make the frame effective. In this chapter, we'll explore the fundamental psychological principles that govern how framing works and why it has such a profound impact on how people think and behave. At its core, framing taps into human cognition and decision-making processes. Our brains are constantly processing information, filtering it through a series of mental shortcuts, known as cognitive biases, that help us make quick decisions. These biases, while often useful, can also be manipulated to achieve a desired outcome. Understanding these biases allows you to frame information in ways that align with how the brain processes it. One of the most powerful biases related to framing is the anchoring effect. Anchoring occurs when individuals rely too heavily on the first piece of information they encounter, even if it is irrelevant or arbitrary. This initial anchor serves as a reference point for subsequent judgments, shaping how information is interpreted and evaluated. For example, consider two price tags on similar items. If you first see a pair of shoes priced at $200, and then you see a second pair priced at $100, you are likely to perceive the second pair as a good deal, even though $100 might still be more than you would typically spend on shoes. The initial anchor of $200 made the $100 price seem much more reasonable, even if it is still high. In framing, anchoring works the same way. By strategically introducing a reference point, whether it's a price, a piece of information, or a statistic, you can influence how the audience perceives the rest of the information you present. If you want to persuade someone to buy a product or take a specific action, framing the offer with a high initial anchor can make subsequent offers appear more attractive. Another key psychological principle that plays a crucial role in framing is loss aversion. Loss aversion refers to the tendency for people to prefer avoiding losses over acquiring equivalent gains. Psychologically, the pain of losing something is felt more intensely than the pleasure of gaining something of equal value. When framed in terms of avoiding a loss, a message becomes more persuasive. For example, research has shown that people are more likely to take action when they're told they will lose something, like an opportunity, a discount, or a benefit, rather than when they are told they stand to gain something. For example, a marketing campaign that offers save 20% if you act now often produces less engagement than one that says you'll lose 20% if you don't act now. The second frame appeals to people's desire to avoid a loss. Loss aversion works in framing because it taps into one of the most fundamental emotional drivers, fear of loss. By framing a message to highlight what someone stands to lose, you're often more likely to elicit an emotional response that leads to action. The framing effect is another concept that builds on loss aversion and explains how people's choices change depending on how a situation is presented. Essentially, the framing effect shows that people are more likely to choose a particular option based on whether it is presented in terms of gains or losses, even if the options are identical. Let's look at an example. Imagine you're presented with two scenarios. 1. A medical treatment with a 90% survival rate. 2. A medical treatment with a 10% mortality rate. Despite the fact that both scenarios are mathematically equivalent, the way they are framed leads to different emotional responses. The first frame emphasizes a potential gain, survival, while the second emphasizes a potential loss, death. Most people are more likely to opt for treatment when it's framed as having a 90% survival rate, even though both descriptions are identical. This principle can be applied to almost any decision-making process. When framing your message, it's important to consider how you present the potential outcomes. If you want to persuade someone to take action, highlighting what they stand to gain or what they will miss out on can be far more effective than emphasizing what they stand to lose. The role of priming. Priming is another important psychological phenomenon related to framing. Priming involves exposing someone to certain stimuli in order to influence their subsequent thoughts, feelings, or actions. When priming is used effectively, it sets the stage for the individual to respond in a desired way. For example, if you're trying to persuade someone to consider a new idea, you might first expose them to related concepts or ideas that align with your message. This primes their brain to be more receptive to your argument. If someone has recently been exposed to content about innovation and progress, they are more likely to accept your pitch for a new, forward-thinking product. In framing, priming is used to create a mental context that makes your message seem more appealing. By first introducing related ideas or concepts, you prepare the audience's mind to accept your main message with less resistance. People are also heavily influenced by what others are doing. Social proof. The idea that individuals tend to mimic the behaviors and choices of others can be used effectively in framing. If you frame an action as something that others are already doing, it increases the likelihood that others will follow suit. This is why testimonials, user reviews, and celebrity endorsements are so powerful in marketing. For example, when you hear that a particular product is the most popular among experts, or that thousands of people have already signed up, you are more likely to view that product or service as desirable. This social proof acts as a frame that influences your perception of the value of the product, even if you have little to no direct experience with it. Framing with values and identity. Lastly, framing becomes even more potent when it taps into a person's core values or sense of identity. People are far more likely to embrace a message that aligns with their beliefs or identity. For instance, a political candidate who frames their platform in terms of national pride or freedom is more likely to attract support from individuals who strongly identify with those values. When framing a message, it's crucial to consider the values and identities of your audience. If your frame connects with something they care about on a deep, personal level, you increase the chances of their agreement or compliance. This can be particularly useful in persuasive communication, such as leadership, marketing, or even personal relationships. Conclusion: the mechanics of framing are rooted in psychology. By understanding cognitive biases, emotional triggers, and social dynamics, you can craft frames that guide people's thoughts and actions. The key is not only to present information, but to present it in a way that aligns with how people process and interpret it. With the right framing, you can influence decisions, shape perceptions, and guide conversations in your favor, all while keeping resistance to a minimum. Chapter 3: Framing and Communication: Shaping Conversations with Subtlety. Effective communication isn't just about the words we speak. It's about how we present those words in the context in which they are received. Whether in personal relationships, professional settings, or public speaking, the ability to frame conversations skillfully can shape outcomes without the need for overt persuasion. In this chapter, we will delve into the subtleties of framing and communication, showing how framing can enhance the clarity of your message, encourage agreement, and even manage conflict. The power of first impressions. When you first enter conversation, the way you frame your approach sets the tone for everything that follows. Research in communication theory has shown that first impressions are formed almost instantaneously, and they significantly influence how the rest of the conversation is interpreted. This is where framing plays a pivotal role. For example, imagine you're about to deliver some bad news. The way you frame that news can determine how it is received. If you begin with a negative statement, such as, "I have some bad news for you," you've already set the stage for discomfort and resistance. However, if you frame it in a more neutral or positive light, such as, "I have an update that might be disappointing but important for you to know," you are more likely to cushion the blow. This subtle shift in framing makes the news more palatable and prepares the listener to respond more rationally. Building rapport through framing. Rapport is a foundation of effective communication, and framing plays a crucial role in building it. Framing helps create a shared understanding and perspective between you and your audience, which is essential for trust and connection. When you're trying to establish rapport, it's useful to frame your communication in terms of common experiences, values, or goals. For instance, when negotiating with a colleague, you might frame your proposal in a way that emphasizes mutual benefits. "I think this approach could work for both of us and help us achieve our shared goal." By framing your communication in terms of collaboration rather than competition, you signal your intention to work together toward a positive outcome. This framing makes the other person feel included, valued, and more likely to engage positively in the conversation. On the other hand, if you frame the situation as a win-lose scenario, you risk creating a divide and fostering resistance. People tend to avoid situations where they feel they're being pitted against others, so framing in terms of commonality rather than opposition can significantly enhance your chances of success in both professional and personal interactions. Reframing conflict. Turning adversity into opportunity. Conflict is an inevitable part of communication, but the way you frame a disagreement can determine whether it escalates or resolves productively. Reframing is a technique used to change the way a situation is perceived by altering the context or perspective. For example, during a heated discussion, instead of framing the situation as a conflict or problem, you might reframe it as a challenge or an opportunity for growth. This simple shift in language helps both parties view the disagreement not as an insurmountable issue, but as a hurdle that could be overcome with collaboration. The goal here is to guide the conversation in a direction that fosters problem solving rather than blaming. In negotiation settings, reframing is particularly valuable. If a conversation is becoming adversarial, you might reframe the terms of the discussion by shifting the focus away from individual positions to the larger shared objective. For instance, if two team members are in a conflict over how to approach a project, reframing the conversation to emphasize the success of the project rather than winning the argument can help both parties unite toward a common cause. Framing to influence decisions. One of the most powerful applications of framing in communication is its ability to influence decisions. Whether in sales, negotiations, or even casual conversations, how you frame the options available to someone can guide their decision-making process. Take the example of a salesperson presenting a product. Instead of simply listing the features, they might frame the benefits of product in terms of the customer's needs and desires. For instance, rather than saying, "This product has a 10-year warranty," the salesperson might frame it like this: "With a 10-year warranty, you'll have peace of mind knowing that you're covered for the long term." This framing appeals directly to the customer's desire for security and reassurance. Similarly, in negotiations, presenting multiple options can create a frame of choice that encourages agreement. For example, presenting two alternatives instead of one can create a sense of empowerment for the other person, making them more likely to make a decision. It's a subtle yet effective technique that shapes their perception of the options and guides them toward a favorable outcome. Framing for clarity, simplifying complex ideas. Framing can also be used to clarify complex ideas, making them more accessible and relatable. When explaining something complicated, it's often helpful to use analogies or metaphors that reframe the information in a way that makes it easier to understand. Take, for instance, the concept of a data backup. Instead of saying, "It's a redundant copy of your data that serves as a safeguard against system failures," you might reframe it as, "It's like an insurance policy for your data." By using a familiar frame, you simplify the idea, making it easier for people to grasp its importance without overwhelming them with technical jargon. In many situations, framing can make the difference between a successful communication exchange and one that falls flat. If you can frame your ideas in a way that simplifies the complex, you'll not only enhance understanding, but also encourage the other person to take action. The role of framing in persuasion. Persuasion is an art, and framing is one of its most effective tools. Whether you're persuading someone to take a specific action, change their opinion, or adopt a new belief, the way you frame your message has a direct impact on your success. Persuasion through framing is about aligning the message with the values and emotions of the recipient. For example, if you're persuading a team to adopt a new process, you might frame it as an opportunity to increase efficiency and improve results. By focusing on the positive outcomes, you frame the change as a valuable opportunity rather than a difficult adjustment. On the contrary, if you framed it as a necessary evil or something people are forced to accept, you would likely encounter more resistance. The key to persuasive framing is knowing your audience, what are their values, fears, and desires. If you can frame your message in a way that resonates with what they care about, you dramatically increase your chances of influencing their behavior. The ethics of framing. While framing is a powerful tool, it is important to remember that it must be used ethically. The line between influencing and manipulating is a fine one, and framing should always be used with respect for the autonomy and intelligence of the people you're communicating with. Framing should never be used to deceive or trick others. Instead, it should be employed to enhance understanding, foster cooperation, and guide decision-making in a transparent and honest manner. Ethical framing is about aligning the message with the recipient's best interests, not about using framing to exploit vulnerabilities. Conclusion: framing is an indispensable tool for effective communication. Whether you're trying to build rapport, manage conflict, persuade, or simply clarify complex ideas, framing gives you the ability to shape conversations in subtle yet powerful ways. By understanding the nuances of framing, you can guide the direction of discussions, foster cooperation, and increase the likelihood of achieving positive outcomes. As with any tool, however, the key to successful framing lies in using it with care and responsibility, ensuring that it serves both your goals and the needs of those you're communicating with. Chapter 4. Framing in Leadership. Guiding teams and organizations. Leadership is not just about making decisions or managing people. It's about shaping the mindset of your team and guiding them towards shared goals. One of the most influential tools a leader can possess is the ability to frame situations, challenges, and opportunities in a way that inspires, motivates, and drives action. In this chapter, we will explore how framing can be used in leadership to strengthen teams, navigate challenges, and achieve success. A leader's ability to frame a vision is perhaps one of the most important aspects of leadership. People need to feel connected to something larger than themselves in order to stay motivated and committed. A leader's role is to present that vision in a way that is both clear and compelling. Imagine a leader tasked with rallying a team around a new, ambitious project. If the leader simply states the project objectives without framing in the context of the team's values, goals, and the broader impact, it's easy for people to lose interest. However, if the leader frames the project as an opportunity to make a real difference, highlight its importance to the company's future, and align it with the team's personal values and aspirations, they are much more likely to get buy-in. For example, rather than simply saying, "We need to complete this project to increase revenue," a leader might frame the message as, "This project gives us a chance to innovate and create something that will change the industry, something we can all be proud of." This shift in framing makes the project not just a task complete, but a mission to be a part of, fostering a sense of purpose that resonates with the team. Leaders often face challenges, and how they frame those challenges to their teams can make all the difference. Rather than framing a difficult situation as a crisis or problem, effective leaders reframe it as an opportunity for growth, innovation, or learning. This framing shifts the focus away from fear and frustration toward potential and possibility. Take, for instance, a situation where a team is behind schedule on a critical project. A poor frame would focus on the negative aspects. "We're falling behind. If we don't catch up, we could lose the client." This frame creates stress, increases pressure, and doesn't inspire confidence. Instead, a leader might frame the situation as, "This is a great opportunity to test our problem-solving skills and prove what we're capable of. If we come together and find a solution, we'll come out stronger than ever." This reframe doesn't ignore the challenge, but instead changes the context, encouraging a proactive and positive response. By framing challenges as opportunities, leaders can inspire resilience, creativity, and collaboration in their teams. Feedback, whether positive or corrective, is a vital part of leadership. However, the way feedback is framed can influence how it is received and acted upon. When delivering feedback, it's important to frame it in a way that encourages growth rather than creating defensiveness or discouragement. For example, when addressing an employee performance issue, a leader who frames a feedback in terms of potential improvement and support is much more likely to get a positive response than a leader who focuses solely on a mistake or shortcoming. Instead of saying, "You missed the deadline and that's unacceptable," the leader could frame the feedback as, "You've done great work in the past, and I know you're capable of meeting deadlines. Let's work together to develop a strategy so you can stay on track moving forward." By framing feedback as a collaborative effort aimed at improvement, the leader not only reduces defensiveness, but also empowers the employee to take responsibility for their growth and development. Leaders often need to make tough decisions that impact the entire organization. When making these decisions, it's essential to frame them in terms of the company's core values, vision, and long-term goals. This helps the team understand the reasoning behind the decision and see it as aligned with the bigger picture, rather than as a personal or arbitrary choice. For example, imagine a leader needs to make a decision about cutting costs, which could involve layoffs. Rather than simply presenting the decision as a business necessity, the leader could frame it within the context of the company's core values and long-term goals. This decision wasn't made lightly, but in order to ensure the long-term sustainability of our company and protect the jobs of the majority of our team, we need to make some difficult cuts. This will allow us to continue to grow and ultimately provide more opportunities for everyone in the future. This framing shows that the decision, while difficult, is made with the team's best interests in mind, rooted in the company's values, and aimed at securing a better future. This can reduce negative emotions and resistance while fostering a greater sense of trust in leadership. Change is often met with resistance, especially in established teams or organizations. People are naturally resistant to the unknown, and when change is introduced, it can create fear, uncertainty, and skepticism. However, when framed correctly, change can be embraced as a necessary and exciting opportunity for growth and improvement. Effective leaders frame change not as something to fear, but as a natural progression toward a better future. Instead of framing a new company policy or process as an imposition, a leader can frame it as, "This change will help us streamline our operations and make our work more efficient, allowing us to focus on things that really matter, like delivering great results for our clients and improving our personal skills." This approach makes the change feel like a step forward rather than an obstacle, aligning it with the team's aspirations and goals. By framing change in a positive light, leaders can reduce resistance and encourage a more proactive and positive response to new initiatives. Framing for motivation, setting the right tone. Motivation is a key aspect of leadership, and the way a leader frames their messages can have a significant impact on the team's level of engagement and enthusiasm. By framing goals and expectations in a way that is inspiring, leaders can help their team stay motivated and focused on achieving success. For example, instead of saying, "We need to hit our sales target by the end of the quarter or face consequences," a leader might frame the goal as, "Our team has a potential to exceed our sales target this quarter, and if we push ourselves, we can achieve something truly remarkable." This framing is forward-looking and aspirational, emphasizing the team's potential rather than focusing on the negative consequences of failure. By framing goals and expectations in a positive and motivating way, leaders can inspire their teams to take ownership of their success and feel empowered to achieve great results. Framing for a conflict resolution in leadership. As with any group of people, conflicts arise within teams and organizations. Effective leaders use framing techniques to manage and resolve these conflicts in ways that maintain harmony and productivity. When addressing conflict, leaders should frame the situation as an opportunity for constructive dialogue and resolution, rather than a problem that needs to be fixed. For example, if two team members are in conflict over a project direction, instead of framing the situation as a disagreement that needs to be resolved, a leader might reframe it as, "This disagreement gives us a chance to explore new ideas and come to a solution that everyone can be excited about. Let's work together to find a compromise that works for the project and the team." This framing creates a positive approach to conflict, encouraging cooperation and collaboration rather than resentment and division. Framing is an essential tool for effective leadership. The way a leader frames a vision, challenge, feedback, or decision can influence the emotional and cognitive responses of their team, shaping behavior, motivating action, and fostering a sense of unity and purpose. By using framing strategically, leaders can inspire their teams, guide them through difficult situations, and achieve long-term success. Ultimately, framing is not about manipulating others, but about presenting information in a way that resonates with their values and goals, empowering them to take action and contribute to the success of the organization. Chapter 5, Framing and Marketing, Persuading and Influencing Consumers. In the world of marketing, persuasion is the name of the game. Marketers know that it's not just about the product or service they're offering, but how they present it to their target audience. Framing plays a critical role in shaping consumer perceptions, driving decision-making, and ultimately influencing purchasing behavior. In this chapter, we will explore how framing can be leveraged in marketing to persuade consumers, create brand loyalty, and boost sales. Emotions are powerful drivers of consumer behavior. While logic and rational thinking play a role in decision-making, It's often emotions that tip the scale when it comes to purchasing decisions. Framing allows marketers to tap into consumers' emotions, whether it's excitement, fear, joy, or even nostalgia, to shape their perceptions and guide their actions. Consider the emotional framing used by brands like Coca-Cola. Their advertisements rarely focus on the product itself, but rather frame the experience of drinking a Coke in terms of happiness, relaxation, and sharing special moments with friends and family. This framing associates the product with positive emotions, making consumers more likely to choose it over other options, even when the actual product is not significantly different from competitors. In contrast, fear-based marketing uses negative framing to drive action. An example of this can be seen in insurance advertisements, where the potential for loss or harm is highlighted to encourage people to buy a policy. The framing is designed to invoke concern and create a sense of urgency. For instance, "Don't let your family suffer. Secure their future today," uses fear to motivate action by framing the purchase of insurance as a safeguard against future loss. The key to emotional framing in marketing is understanding your audience's values and emotional triggers. By framing your product or message to align with these emotions, you can create a connection that goes beyond the functional benefits of your offering. Framing the problem, shaping perceptions of need. Marketing often revolves around framing the problem that a product or service solves. By framing the consumer situation as a problem that requires a solution, marketers can create a sense of urgency and necessity. This technique taps into the consumer's desire to fix a perceived issue, positioning the product or service as the answer. For example, a brand selling high-end mattresses may frame the problem as poor sleep quality. They might frame the message as, "Are you waking up tired and sore every morning? It's time to invest in better sleep." This framing directly addresses a consumer's discomfort and positions a mattress as a solution to their problem. Another powerful example is in the tech industry. A phone company might frame the problem as being out of touch with the latest technology. "Are you still using an old phone? Upgrade to the latest model and stay ahead of the curve." This framing taps into the consumer's fear of missing out, FOMO, and creates a sense of urgency to purchase the latest product to remain relevant. The key to framing a problem is identifying a pain point or unmet need that your audience is experiencing. By framing the issue in a way that feels personal and urgent, you increase the likelihood that consumers will take action. When presenting a product or service, it's tempting to focus on its features, the specifications, the components, and the technical details. However, framing your product in terms of its benefits, rather than its features, is often far more persuasive. Consumers are not necessarily interested in what a product does. They are more interested in how it will make their lives better. Take, for example, the marketing of a new blender. A company could frame the product by listing its features. This blender has a 1,000-watt motor, 6-speed settings, and a durable glass jar. While these features are important, they don't immediately convey how the product will improve the consumer's life. Instead, a more effective framing might be, "This blender helps you make smoothies in seconds, saving you time and helping you lead a healthier lifestyle." Here, the focus is on the benefit, the convenience and health benefits, rather than the features themselves. Framing your product in terms of how it solves a problem or improves a consumer's life is key to persuading them to make a purchase. People buy benefits, not features, so it's important to present your offering in a way that highlights the transformation or improvement it provides. Social proof, using framing to build trust. One of the most powerful forms of framing in marketing is social proof. Social proof is a concept that people are influenced by the actions and opinions of others, especially in situations of uncertainty. When people see that others have made a purchase or had a positive experience, they are more likely to follow suit. Marketers use social proof framing in a variety of ways, such as through customer reviews, testimonials, or influencer endorsements. For example, an e-commerce website might frame a product as bestseller or top-rated, to indicate that many people have already bought it and are satisfied with their purchase. This framing reduces uncertainty for potential buyer, as they are more likely to trust a product that has already been tried and tested by others. Social proof can also be framed in terms of scarcity. Only 10 items left in stock. This framing plays on the fear of missing out, FOMO, and creates urgency by suggesting that if the consumer doesn't act quickly, they will lose out on the opportunity to purchase. The key to using social proof framing effectively is to provide authentic and relatable examples of others who have had a positive experience. People trust the opinions of their peers more than marketing messages. So framing your product or service as a trusted, popular choice can significantly influence consumer behavior. Framing price, creating perceived value. Price framing is another common strategy used in marketing to influence consumers' perception of value. The way you present the price of your product can dramatically affect how consumers perceive its worth. This technique is particularly useful when selling premium products or services. One effective price framing technique is the anchoring effect, which was discussed earlier. By presenting a higher-priced option first, marketers can make the second option seem like a better deal. For example, a luxury watch brand might first show a watch price at $10,000, followed by a watch price at $5,000. The $5,000 watch seems like a bargain in comparison, even though it is still expensive. Another common framing strategy is the decoy effect, where a marketer introduces a third, less attractive option to make the desired choice seem more appealing. For example, a restaurant might offer 3 wine options: a $30 bottle, a $60 bottle, and a $100 bottle. The $100 bottle makes the $60 bottle seem more reasonable in comparison, even if the quality difference is minimal. Price framing is about making consumers feel like they are getting more value for their money. By carefully positioning your product's price in the right context, you can create a perception of value that encourages the purchase. Finally, framing plays a significant role in building brand loyalty. Successful brands create an emotional connection with their customers by framing their products, services, and messages in ways that resonate with the values, desires, and identities of their target audience. For example, Apple frames its products not just as tools, but as symbols of innovation, creativity, and individuality. The company's marketing campaigns often focus on how Apple products enable people to express themselves and achieve their full potential. This framing creates a sense of belonging and loyalty, where consumers feel like they are part of a larger community of like-minded individuals. By consistently framing your brand in a way that aligns with your customers' values and aspirations, you can build a loyal customer base that feels connected to your brand on a deeper level. Loyalty isn't just about offering a good product. It's about framing your brand in a way that makes your customers feel personally invested. Framing is an indispensable tool in the marketer's toolkit. By carefully crafting the way you present your product, service, or brand, you can influence consumer perceptions, create emotional connections, and guide purchasing decisions. Whether you're framing the problem, the solution, the price, or the social proof, the way you frame your message can significantly impact its effectiveness. Ultimately, successful marketing is about presenting your offering in a way that resonates with your audience's emotions, values, and desires, making them feel like they are making the right choice. Chapter 6: Framing in Media and Politics, Shaping Public Opinion. In the realms of media and politics, framing plays a pivotal role in shaping public opinion and influencing how individuals and communities perceive issues, events, and figures. Whether through news broadcasts, social media campaigns, or political speeches, the way information is framed can drastically affect how it is received by the public. In this chapter, we will explore how framing is used in media and politics to guide public perception, sway opinion, and mobilize action. Framing the narrative: how media shapes perceptions. The media holds significant power in shaping the narratives that define our understanding of the world. From news outlets to social media platforms, The way events are framed determines how people perceive the importance and implications of those events. Media organizations are constantly framing stories in ways that either emphasize or downplay certain aspects, which in turn influences the audience's emotional response and beliefs. For example, consider how the media frames a political protest. If a news outlet frames a protest as a peaceful demonstration for social justice, it creates an image of unity and legitimate grievance. However, if the same protest is framed as a violent uprising disrupting public order, it evokes a very different response. The framing not only affects how the audience sees the event, but also how they feel about the people involved, the cause they are fighting for, and the broader context of the issue. Framing in the media can also influence the perceived importance of an event. For instance, if a news outlet frames a natural disaster in terms of the widespread devastation and loss of life, it draws attention to the tragedy and its immediate human impact. Alternatively, if the same disaster is framed as an unfortunate but manageable event, the focus shifts away from the human toll and towards a recovery process, altering the audience's emotional response. In the world of politics, framing is used extensively to shape public opinion, influence voting behavior, and sway support for policies. Politicians and political parties employ framing techniques to present their positions and policies in ways that resonate with voters' values, beliefs, and concerns. The way an issue is framed can determine whether it is seen as a priority or as a trivial matter. Consider the framing of economic policies. A politician advocating for tax cuts may frame it as putting money back in the pockets of hard-working families, which emphasizes personal gain and fairness. In contrast, the opposition might frame the same policy as tax cuts for the wealthy at the expense of public services, shifting the focus to social inequality and potential harm. Both sides are discussing the same policy, but their framing influences how the public perceives the policy's intent and impact. Another common use of framing in politics is in defining problems. For example, during an election campaign, a candidate might frame unemployment as a crisis affecting working-class families to draw attention to human cost of job loss. Alternatively, the same issue could be framed as a natural part of the economic cycle to downplay its significance and avoid calls for government intervention. The way the issue is framed impacts how voters respond to proposed solutions and which candidates they perceive as best equipped to address the problem. Language is one of the most powerful tools in framing. The specific words and phrases used in political discourse can shape how an issue is perceived and which aspects are emphasized. Politicians and media figures are careful with their word choices, knowing that language has the power to influence emotions, perceptions, and behaviors. For example, the term climate change has been framed in a variety of ways, from global warming to environmental crisis. Each term carries its own set of connotations, and the way it is framed can influence how people view the issue. Climate change may seem more neutral, while environmental crisis evokes a sense of urgency and alarm. Similarly, politicians often frame social issues through terms like reform, progress, or change, each carrying positive connotations. In contrast, terms like cutbacks, restrictions, or austerity frame policies in more negative light, making them less appealing to the public. Framing through language also plays a key role in shaping the identity of political groups or movements. For instance, activists may frame their cause as a fight for freedom or a call for justice, while opponents may frame the same issue as radical or unrealistic. The words chosen to describe an issue can either inspire support or create fear, depending on how they are framed. Framing the other. The role of polarization. In politics, framing is often used to define us versus them. This polarizing technique is especially effective in creating in-group solidarity and fostering opposition to a common enemy. By framing political opponents, social movements, or foreign entities as an other, politicians can rally support for their own positions and mobilize their base. For example, political leaders might frame opposing parties as dangerous or out of touch with the values of the people. This creates a clear distinction between the good guys, their supporters, and the bad guys, the opposition. Such framing can help create a sense of urgency and fear, prompting voters to act to prevent the rise of the other. The framing of us versus them can also be seen in discussions around immigration, national security, and identity politics. For instance, politicians may frame immigration as a threat to national security, framing immigrants as outsiders who pose a danger to the country. This framing appeals to voters who feel threatened by demographic changes or cultural differences. Conversely, activists may frame immigration as a human rights issue, framing immigrants as victims in need of protection and support. While polarizing frames can be effective in motivating voters and rallying political support, they also contribute to division and conflict. The us versus them frame can deepen societal rifts and create an environment where compromise and collaboration become more difficult. In both politics and media, framing is used to create visions of the future, visions that either inspire hope or reinforce the status quo. Politicians, in particular, use framing to present themselves as visionaries who will lead the country toward a better future, while their opponents are often framed as protectors of the past. For instance, a candidate running for office might frame their platform in terms of a brighter future for all or a new era of prosperity. This frame emphasizes optimism, progress, and change. In contrast, an opponent might be framed as a return outdated policies or a defender of the status quo, which positions them as resistant to necessary progress. This framing technique is particularly effective in times of change or crisis. When a society is facing economic downturns, social unrest, or other challenges, framing the future in positive, hopeful terms can inspire people to embrace new ideas and take action. Conversely, framing the future as bleak or uncertain can make voters more hesitant to embrace change, even when it is necessary. While media outlets strive for objectivity, framing often reveals inherent biases in the way news is presented. Media organizations have editorial stances, target audiences, and corporate interests that shape how stories are framed. These biases influence what is covered, how it is framed, and the overall tone of the reporting. For example, a story about a political candidate might be framed positively by one news outlet, highlighting their achievements and vision for the future, while another outlet might frame the same candidate negatively, focusing on scandals and controversial remarks. The framing choices made by the media can significantly impact public perception, influencing how people view political figures, social issues, and even the media itself. Media consumers are increasingly aware of this bias and are often more selective about which sources they trust. This has given rise to echo chambers, where individuals seek out information that confirms their existing beliefs. Understanding how media framing works allows consumers to better navigate the information landscape and make more informed decisions. Framing in media and politics is a powerful tool for shaping public opinion and guiding behavior. Whether through news reports, political campaigns, or social media platforms, framing can influence how individuals perceive issues, events, and figures. By presenting information in particular ways, media outlets and political leaders can invoke specific emotional responses, create divisions, and mobilize support. However, framing can also be used to inspire, motivate, and unite people around common goals. Understanding the dynamics of framing in these domains is essential for both consumers of information and those who wish to influence public opinion. Chapter 7. Framing in Personal Relationships, Enhancing Connection and Communication. In personal relationships, whether romantic, familial, or platonic, framing is a subtle yet powerful tool that can strengthen bonds, ease conflicts, and foster deeper understanding. How we present ourselves, express our feelings, and discuss challenges significantly influences the dynamics of our relationships. In this chapter, We will explore how framing can be used to improve communication, build empathy, and manage conflict in personal relationships. Framing emotions, expressing feelings constructively. One of the most common challenges in personal relationships is the way emotions are expressed. Our feelings, when not properly framed, can lead to misunderstandings, defensiveness, or conflict. How we communicate our emotions is often as important as the emotions themselves. Framing helps ensure that our feelings are expressed in a way that is both clear and constructive, reducing the chance of negative reactions. For instance, if you're upset with your partner for being late, the way you frame that emotion can determine how the conversation unfolds. A direct accusatory statement like, "You always make me wait. You're so inconsiderate," will likely put your partner on the defensive, leading to a conflict. In contrast, reframing the statement to something like, "I feel frustrated when I have to wait because I value our time together," focuses on your feelings rather than attacking your partner's character. This framing encourages empathy and opens a door for constructive dialogue, allowing your partner to understand the impact of their actions without feeling personally attacked. Framing emotions in a way that expresses your needs or desires without blame fosters understanding and helps maintain harmony. Instead of simply stating what your partner did wrong, you can frame the conversation to express how their actions affected you and what you would like moving forward. Framing conflict, turning disagreements into opportunities for growth. Conflict is inevitable in any relationship, but how it's framed can determine whether it becomes a source of tension or an opportunity for growth. In many cases, people approach conflict from a defensive or adversarial standpoint, framing the situation as a battle to be won or lost. However, reframing conflict as an opportunity for mutual growth, understanding, and compromise can change the dynamic entirely. Imagine you and a close friend have a disagreement about a sensitive topic, like finances or values. If you frame the conversation as me versus you, with a goal of proving the other person wrong, the situation will likely escalate into a heated argument. However, if you reframe the conflict as an opportunity to deepen your understanding of each other's perspectives, the tone of the conversation shifts. Instead of focusing on who is right or wrong, the focus becomes how you can learn from each other and find a solution that works for both parties. This shift in framing helps reduce the emotional charge of the conversation and opens up space for collaboration rather than confrontation. By acknowledging the conflict as part of the natural ebb and flow of any relationship and framing it as a chance to enhance mutual understanding, you can transform challenges into learning experiences. Framing expectations, setting healthy boundaries. Setting and communicating healthy boundaries is essential for maintaining balance and respect in relationships. Framing expectations is crucial in ensuring that both parties are on the same page and that each person feels heard and understood. Without clear expectations, resentment can build and conflicts may arise. For example, if you want to spend more quality time with your partner but feel like they are too busy, simply saying, "You never have time for me," will likely result in defensiveness or guilt. Instead, framing the conversation positively by saying, "I really cherish our time together, and I would love to find ways to spend more quality time with you," invites the other person to collaborate in finding a solution without feeling blamed. By framing your needs and desires in a positive and collaborative way, you encourage a productive conversation where both individuals can express their boundaries and preferences without feeling attacked. This framing allows for a healthier, more respectful dialogue around expectations, leading to more balanced relationships. Framing support, encouraging growth and encouragement. In personal relationships, support plays a key role in nurturing emotional well-being and growth. Framing support in a positive, empowering way can help foster a strong foundation of trust and encouragement. Whether you're offering support to a friend going through a tough time or encouraging a partner to pursue a new goal, the way you frame your support can make a significant difference. rather than simply saying, "I hope everything works out for you," which may sound generic and passive. Framing your support with enthusiasm and belief in the person's ability to succeed can make a powerful impact. For example, "I know you have the strength and skills to get through this, and I'm here to support you every step of the way," reinforces a sense of empowerment and positivity. Framing support in a way that acknowledges the other person's strengths and resilience not only boosts their confidence, but also strengthens the bond between you. It frames your relationship as one of mutual respect and encouragement, where both individuals can grow and thrive together. In relationships, it's important to speak your truth and communicate your needs and desires clearly. Framing your needs effectively can help ensure that they are met without creating unnecessary conflict or misunderstanding. Whether it's expressing a need for more personal space, a desire for affection, or a change in behavior, the way you frame your message can affect how your partner or friend receives it. If you frame your need for more alone time as, "I need space," or else I'm going to lose my mind, it can create feelings of rejection or insecurity. However, if you frame it as, "I value our time together, but I also need some time to recharge on my own," it communicates the same need in a way that is less likely to cause hurt or confusion. This framing emphasizes that the need for space is not about rejecting the other person, but rather about ensuring that both parties can maintain their well-being and contribute to a healthy relationship. By framing your needs in a way that emphasizes care for both yourself and the relationship, you are more likely to be met with understanding and support. In romantic relationships, framing expressions of love and affection can deepen emotional intimacy and strengthen the bond between partners. Framing love in a way that highlights appreciation, gratitude, and shared experiences can help both individuals feel valued and understood. Instead of saying, "I love you," which may become routine or lose meaning over time, consider framing your affection with specific appreciation. "I love how thoughtful and caring you are. You always know how to make me feel special." This framing emphasizes the unique qualities of the other person and reinforces the emotional connection between you. Framing love in a way that acknowledges the other person's impact on your life not only strengthens your relationship, but also encourages both partners to continually invest in their emotional connection. Relationships, like all aspects of life, go through periods of change. Whether it's a major life transition, such as moving to a new city or starting a family, or a more subtle shift in the dynamics of the relationship, how you frame these changes can determine how both individuals navigate them. For example, if your relationship is going through a tough time, framing the situation as, "We're going through a rough patch," might make it feel like the relationship is at risk. However, reframing it as, "We're going through a challenge, but it's an opportunity for us to grow stronger together," provides hope and optimism, encouraging both partners to face the challenge as a team rather than as individuals. By framing changes as opportunities for growth, you can approach difficult transitions with a mindset of collaboration and resilience, fostering a deeper sense of connection and commitment to each other. Framing is a powerful tool in personal relationships. Whether you're expressing emotions, managing conflict, setting expectations, or offering support, how you frame your words and actions can significantly impact the success and health of your relationships. By using framing techniques that emphasize empathy, collaboration, and growth, you can enhance communication, deepen emotional connections, and navigate challenges with greater understanding and mutual respect. Chapter 8: Framing in Education. Shaping Learning Experiences. Education is more than the transfer of knowledge. It is a process of shaping minds, fostering curiosity, and encouraging personal growth. The way information is framed in educational settings can have a profound impact on students' understanding, engagement, and retention. Whether you're an educator, a parent, or someone interested in the learning process, understanding how framing works in education can enhance the way knowledge is presented and absorbed. In this chapter, We will explore how framing can be used to create more effective and engaging learning environments. Framing the learning experience, creating a positive environment. The way a teacher frames a learning environment sets the tone for the entire educational experience. A positive frame can increase students' motivation, encourage participation, and build confidence. For example, a teacher who frames a lesson as an exciting challenge rather than an overwhelming task is more likely to inspire enthusiasm and a positive attitude toward the subject matter. In the same way, framing classroom behavior positively can set expectations for student conduct. Instead of focusing on what students should not do, such as no talking during class, a teacher could frame it as, let's make sure we are all respectful by listening to each other. This subtle shift in framing creates a more supportive and respectful learning environment by focusing on the desired behavior, rather than merely warning against negative actions. One of the most effective ways to frame learning is to emphasize the growth process rather than the final outcome. When students view learning as a journey of improvement rather than a race to perfection, they are more likely to develop a growth mindset and embrace challenges rather than shy away from them. A teacher might frame a difficult subject, like mathematics, not as something only a few people can master, but as a skill that everyone can improve with practice. This framing encourages perseverance and fosters a belief that effort and time can lead to improvement, which is crucial in developing resilience in the face of academic difficulties. Instead of focusing on grades or outcomes, framing the learning process as an opportunity for growth helps students appreciate the value of learning itself. A teacher might say, this isn't about getting the answer right the first time. It's about learning how to approach problems and improve your skills along the way. By focusing on the journey of learning, students are less likely to feel discouraged by setbacks and more likely to develop a positive, proactive attitude toward their education. Challenges are inevitable in any learning process. However, how these challenges are framed can determine how students approach and respond to them. When faced with a difficult topic, students can either see the challenge as something insurmountable or as an opportunity to grow and push their boundaries. This is where framing comes into play. For example, when students struggle with a difficult concept, framing the challenge in a positive light can help them feel empowered. Instead of saying, this is going to be hard, a teacher might frame it as, this is an opportunity to strengthen your skills. It may be tough, but it's exactly what you need to help you improve. This type of framing reframes the difficulty as an integral part of the learning experience rather than something to avoid or fear. Teachers can also use framing to help students understand that mistakes are part of the learning process. For instance, framing errors as learning moments rather than failures encourages students to take risks, experiment, and learn from their mistakes. This approach shifts the focus from fear of failure to the excitement of discovery, fostering a mindset that embraces challenges. In educational settings, feedback is essential for growth. However, the way feedback is framed can significantly affect how students receive and act on it. Positive framing helps students see feedback as a tool for improvement rather than criticism. For example, rather than saying, your essay is all wrong, a teacher might frame the feedback by saying, your essay has some great ideas, but let's work on organizing them more clearly. This framing highlights the positive aspect of the work, while gently guiding the student toward areas for improvement. By focusing on strengths and offering constructive suggestions for growth, students are more likely to feel motivated to apply the feedback and make changes. In addition, when framing feedback, it's important to be specific and actionable. Instead of giving vague comments like, needs work, framing the feedback with clear steps for improvement can help students understand exactly what they need to do next. For instance, you could improve your argument by providing more evidence in the second paragraph. Offers a clear suggestion for improvement, empowering the student to make tangible progress. Setting clear expectations is crucial in education, as it helps students understand what is required of them and what they can expect from the learning process. However, how these expectations are framed can influence how students approach the tasks at hand. A teacher might frame expectations for a project by saying, "This is a chance to show what you've learned and apply your creativity," rather than simply stating, "You need to complete this assignment." This framing not only sets the expectation, but also encourages students to view the task as an opportunity for creative expression and personal growth, rather than as a chore or obligation. By framing goals and expectations in a positive, empowering way, students are more likely to approach the work with enthusiasm and a sense of purpose. Framing tasks as opportunities to showcase learning or creativity rather than as burdens to bear helps students feel more invested in their academic journey. Framing motivation, linking learning to real-world benefits. One of the most effective ways to frame learning is to connect academic content to real-world applications. When students can see the value and relevance of what they're learning, they are more likely to be motivated and engaged. For instance, when teaching algebra, a teacher might frame the lesson as, "Learning algebra will help you solve problems you might face in everyday life, like calculating discounts, managing budgets, or even planning trips." By framing the subject matter as something practical and useful, students are more likely to understand its value and feel motivated to engage with it. Similarly, when students are learning history, framing the subject in terms of understanding current events, societal development, and the importance of making informed decisions can make the material feel more relevant. By linking what students are learning to real-world outcomes, teachers can help students see the bigger picture and connect their studies to their lives outside of school. Framing success, celebrating milestones and progress. Celebrating progress and small successes is an essential part of keeping students motivated. While the ultimate goal is often the final outcome, such as a grade or certificate, the smaller milestones along the way are just as important. By framing these moments of progress as victories, students are encouraged to continue working hard and striving toward their goals. For example, if a student has worked hard on improving their writing skills, a teacher might frame their progress by saying, "Your writing has improved significantly. You've made great strides in organizing your ideas and improving your clarity." This type of framing reinforces a student's sense of accomplishment and encourages them to continue developing their skills. It shifts the focus from the outcome to the journey and the continuous effort involved in learning. By framing success as an ongoing process rather than a singular event, educators help students develop a growth mindset and stay motivated throughout their educational journey. Conclusion: framing plays an essential role in education by shaping how students perceive learning, challenges, and success. Whether it's framing the learning experience as an opportunity for growth, reframing mistakes as learning moments, or framing feedback in a positive and constructive way, the way information is presented can significantly impact students' motivation, engagement, and academic outcomes. By understanding and using framing techniques, educators can create more effective and empowering learning environments that foster curiosity, resilience, and a lifelong love of learning. Chapter 9: Framing in Business, Shaping Perceptions and Driving Success. In the world of business, framing is a critical skill for shaping how employees, customers, investors, and other stakeholders perceive a company, its products, and its initiatives. Whether it's framing a new product launch, a marketing campaign, or an organizational change, the way information is framed can greatly impact the success of business endeavors. In this chapter, we'll explore how framing can be strategically used in business to enhance brand perception, motivate employees, and drive company growth. A company's brand identity is more than just its logo or slogan. It's the narrative that surrounds a company and the way it is perceived by the public. The way a business frames its brand, both internally and externally, shapes how customers, employees, and the broader market understand the company. For example, companies like Apple have mastered the art of framing their brand as innovative, sleek, and customer-centric. Their marketing campaigns often frame their products as cutting-edge and revolutionary, which aligns with their brand's identity of being at the forefront of technological advancement. This framing has helped Apple cultivate a loyal customer base that not only buys products, but also identifies with the brand's core values of simplicity, design, and progress. In contrast, Companies that focus on cost efficiency, like Walmart, frame their identity around value and accessibility. Everyday low prices is a frame that speaks to customers' desire for affordable products without sacrificing quality. By framing its brand identity in this way, Walmart positions itself as the go-to retailer for budget-conscious shoppers. Understanding how to frame your company's identity in a way that aligns with the values and desires of your target audience can help establish a strong market presence, build trust, and create a sense of loyalty. When marketing a product or service, it's important to frame it in terms of the benefits it provides rather than focusing solely on its features. Consumers are more interested in how a product will improve their lives than in its technical specifications. For example, a car manufacturer may emphasize the safety features of a vehicle, framing it as protecting your loved ones or providing peace of mind on the road. While the car's technical specs, such as airbags and crash test ratings, are important, framing the product in terms of how it meets the emotional needs of consumers, safety and security, can be more compelling. Similarly, a software company offering project management tools could frame its product as saving you time and reducing stress, focusing on the efficiency and peace of mind it brings to business operations, rather than merely listing its capabilities, such as task tracking and collaborative features. The key to framing products and services effectively is to connect them to the outcomes that customers care most about. By highlighting benefits over features, businesses can create a deeper emotional connection with consumers, leading to greater satisfaction and higher sales. In business, pricing is a powerful tool for shaping consumer perception. The way a product's price is framed can greatly influence its attractiveness, especially when the goal is to position it as high value or affordable. One common pricing strategy is price anchoring, where a higher-priced option is presented first, making subsequent lower-priced options seem more affordable by comparison. For example, a hotel might advertise a luxury suite at $500 per night, and then offer a more affordable room at $200 per night. The first price acts as an anchor, making the second price seem like a bargain, even if it's still above the consumer's original budget. Another pricing frame that companies often use is the decoy effect. In this strategy, a third, less attractive option is introduced to make the desired option seem more appealing. For instance, a restaurant might offer a small, medium, and large portion size, with a medium portion priced only slightly less than the large. The introduction of the small size makes the medium size appear more reasonable, even though it's still a premium offering. Framing prices in a way that emphasizes perceived value, whether through comparative pricing, discounts, or bundling, can create a sense of urgency and encourage consumers to take action. By framing your pricing strategy thoughtfully, you can influence purchasing decisions and drive business success. In a business context, framing is just as important when it comes to employees and internal communication. The way you frame expectations, organizational changes, and company goals can influence employee morale, productivity, and engagement. Positive framing of workplace culture and values helps foster a sense of belonging, encourages commitment, and inspires high performance. When it comes to framing organizational changes, such as restructuring or new management, framing the changes as opportunities for growth and improvement rather than necessary adjustments can shift employees' perspectives. For example, instead of framing a departmental reorganization as a response to inefficiency, a leader might frame it as, "We're evolving our structure to better serve our clients and provide greater opportunities for innovation and collaboration." Framing leadership and expectations is also crucial. Instead of merely telling employees, "You need to hit these numbers," a manager might frame the conversation in a way that emphasizes a shared goal. By achieving these targets, we're all contributing to the company's success, and in turn, we create more opportunities for growth and development. This framing makes employees feel like they are an integral part of the organization's success, and not just individual cogs of a machine. By framing the workplace as a positive, collaborative environment, businesses can foster greater employee engagement, increase productivity, and build a strong, loyal team. Framing change and innovation, shaping the narrative around new ideas. Change and innovation are essential for the growth and survival of any business. However, implementing new strategies, products, or technologies often meets with resistance. The way you frame these changes can either foster excitement and acceptance or lead to hesitation and fear. A company introducing a new technology, for example, might frame the change as an exciting leap forward or a new chapter in improving efficiency and customer experience. By framing innovation in a positive light, employees and customers are more likely to embrace the change with enthusiasm rather than fear. Similarly, when introducing a new company policy or operational change, framing the transition as an opportunity for improvement or a step toward better service and innovation helps create a sense of purpose around the change. This framing encourages stakeholders to view the shift as something beneficial rather than a disruption to the status quo. Framing crisis situations, managing perception in times of trouble. In business, crises are inevitable, whether they involve a product recall, a public relations issue, or an economic downturn. How a company frames its response to a crisis can determine whether the business rebounds stronger or faces long-lasting damage to its reputation. During a crisis, framing transparency and accountability is crucial. Rather than framing the issue as a minor setback, a company might frame it as a challenge we are addressing head-on or an opportunity to improve and deliver even better results in the future. This framing reassures customers, investors, and employees that the company is taking the situation seriously and is committed to resolving it. By framing a crisis as a learning opportunity and showing proactive steps toward resolution, businesses can maintain trust and even strengthen their reputation. This framing approach can turn a potentially damaging situation into one that showcases a company's resilience, leadership, and commitment to continuous improvement. In today's business landscape, corporate social responsibility, CSR, is more than just a buzzword. It's an integral part of building a responsible, ethical brand. How a company frames its CSR initiatives can influence how the public perceives its commitment to social and environmental causes. For example, instead of framing CSR efforts as just another marketing initiative, a company might frame them as part of our core mission to give back to the community and protect the environment. By framing CSR in this way, companies align their values with their actions and build trust with customers who prioritize ethical practices. This framing helps the company establish itself as a brand that not only focuses on profit, but also cares about making a positive impact on the world. In business, framing is a strategic tool that can shape perceptions, drive decisions, and influence behavior. Whether you're framing a brand identity, a product offering, an employee initiative, or a crisis response, the way you present your message can make all the difference. By framing information in ways that resonate with your target audience, be it customers, employees, or stakeholders, you can build trust, inspire loyalty, and drive long-term success. Ultimately, framing is about creating narratives that engage, motivate, and align with the values and goals of both your business and the people you serve. Chapter 10. The Ethics of Framing, Navigating the Fine Line Between Influence and Manipulation. Framing is a powerful tool that can shape perceptions, drive actions, and guide decision-making. However, as with any form of influence, it comes with responsibility. When used ethically, framing can foster understanding, promote positive change, and build trust. But when misused, it can manipulate, deceive, and undermine relationships. In this final chapter, we will explore the ethical considerations of framing, how to navigate its potential pitfalls, and how to use it responsibly in various contexts. Framing, by its nature, is a form of influence. Whether it's in the context of business, politics, personal relationships, or education, framing shapes how people think, feel, and act. Because of this power, the way framing is used carries significant ethical implications. The line between influence and manipulation can be thin, and it's essential to ensure that framing is used with integrity. At its core, ethical framing is about respect. Respect for the audience's autonomy, dignity, and ability to make informed decisions. Framing should never be used to deceive or coerce people into making decisions that are not in their best interest. Rather, it should empower individuals to make decisions based on accurate, transparent understanding of the information presented. Influence is not inherently unethical. We influence others every day, whether in casual conversations, professional settings, or in more structured environments like marketing or leadership. The ethical question arises when influence crosses a line into manipulation, where the intent is to mislead or pressure people into making choices they might not otherwise make. Manipulative framing involves presenting information in a way that distorts the truth, misrepresents facts, or hides key details in order to steer people toward a specific outcome. This can occur in many ways: using fear-based framing to manipulate decisions, cherry-picking facts to support a biased agenda, or framing a problem in a way that prevents people from seeing all the possible solutions. An example of unethical framing might be in advertising, where a company frames a product as life-changing without providing any scientific evidence or testimonials to support the claim. The framing creates unrealistic expectations and manipulates consumers into believing they need the product to achieve a desired outcome, when in reality, it may not deliver. The key difference between ethical influence and manipulation is transparency. Ethical framing ensures that people are fully informed and empowered to make their own choices, while manipulative framing distorts or withholds information to achieve a specific goal, often without regard for the individual's best interests. To frame ethically, the goal should always be to promote honest and transparent communication. This involves presenting information in a way that accurately reflects reality, without exaggeration or omission. The framing should be respectful of the audience's intelligence, ensuring that they are not misled or misinformed. For example, when framing a new product or service, companies should emphasize the product's real benefits and drawbacks, rather than creating an overly polished or exaggerated image. Instead of framing a product as perfect, marketers should present it as a solution to X problem, acknowledging that it may not be right for everyone but could benefit a specific group of consumers. This level of honesty fosters trust and allows consumers to make an informed decision. In a leadership context, framing should also be honest and realistic. A leader should present challenges and opportunities with clarity, acknowledging potential obstacles while emphasizing the positive outcomes that could be achieved with effort and collaboration. Misleading employees or followers by framing everything as easy or guaranteed success sets them up for disappointment and resentment if things don't go as planned. Politics is perhaps one of the most powerful fields where framing is used to influence public opinion and sway voters. Politicians regularly frame issues, policies, and debates in ways that align with their agendas and appeal to voters' values and emotions. While framing in politics can be an effective tool for communicating complex ideas and mobilizing support, it also comes with significant ethical challenges. The ethical issue in political framing arises when politicians frame an issue in a way that distorts the facts, plays on fear or anger, or simplifies complex situations to create a false dichotomy. For example, framing a political opponent as a threat to national security or labeling them with derogatory terms can polarize voters and make rational debate more difficult. Such framing might stir up emotions, but doesn't contribute to informed decision-making. Ethical political framing, on the other hand, involves presenting issues in a way that encourages constructive dialogue, critical thinking, and informed decision-making. It's about framing policies and debates in terms of the real impacts on people's lives, providing enough context and nuance for voters to understand the complexities involved. By framing in a way that invites thoughtful consideration and respect for different perspectives, Politicians can promote healthier democratic discourse. Marketing is one of the most common areas where framing is used to influence consumer behavior. While marketing strategies often rely on framing to highlight the benefits of products and services, it's crucial for businesses to do so in an ethical manner. Unethical marketing practices often involve framing that exaggerates the benefits of a product or hides key information. For instance, a weight loss supplement might be framed as guaranteed to help you lose 20 pounds in 2 weeks without any scientific backing. This type of framing manipulates the consumer's emotions and creates unrealistic expectations that could lead to disappointment and distrust. Ethical marketing framing, however, focuses on providing accurate and transparent information, highlighting the real benefits and potential drawbacks of a product. Companies should avoid using overly sensational language or misleading claims, and should ensure that their framing aligns with the actual experience the consumer will have with the product or service. By framing products honestly and transparently, businesses can build trust, create long-term customer loyalty, and contribute to positive brand perception. Framing in personal relationships is about creating healthy communication patterns that encourage understanding and empathy. However, just as in other contexts, framing can be used unethically to manipulate emotions, avoid accountability, or control the narrative. For instance, framing a disagreement in a way that shifts blame entirely onto the other person is an unethical form of framing. Phrases like, "You always do this," or "You never listen to me," can create defensiveness and prevent productive conversations. On the other hand, framing disagreements in terms of personal feelings, "I feel hurt when this happens," helps foster more respectful dialogue and promotes mutual understanding. Ethical framing in relationships involves being honest about your feelings and needs while respecting the other person's perspective. It's about fostering open communication where both individuals feel heard and valued, rather than framing things in a way that places undue blame or creates false narratives. Self-awareness is an essential component of ethical framing. To use framing responsibly, it's important to understand your intentions and the impact your framing may have on others. Are you framing an issue or conversation in a way that respects the autonomy of others? Are you presenting information transparently, or are you intentionally leaving out key details to sway opinions? By reflecting on your framing choices, you can ensure that you're using this powerful tool ethically. Ethical framing also involves being open to feedback and recognizing when framing may be misinterpreted or harmful. If someone feels manipulated or misled by how information was framed, it's important to listen to their perspective and adjust your approach accordingly. Conclusion: framing with integrity. Framing is an incredibly powerful tool for influencing thoughts, perceptions, and behaviors. Whether in business, politics, education, or personal relationships, framing shapes how information is received and acted upon. However, the ethical use of framing requires transparency, respect, and a commitment to honesty. By using framing responsibly, we can promote informed decision-making, foster empathy, and build trust in all our interactions. Ultimately, ethical framing ensures that we use this tool not to manipulate or deceive, but to empower others to make choices that are in their best interest.